AITA for serving my husband's family mac and cheese for dinner? My husband, Asian, and I, American, welcomed our firstborn 4 weeks ago. The baby is health, thank God, but I'm exhausted, haven't fixed my hair, barely able to shower and cannot sleep. My husband's family had been pressuring us to visit to meet the baby. I tried to hold them off as much as I could, but yesterday, I was surprised to find them standing on the porch. Turns out hubby invited them for dinner. I was embarrassed and felt like I wasn't ready for visitors. Judgmental ones at that, winking face. 'Cause the house was a mess, y'all. Anyways, my husband sat with them while I fed my son. Then later I asked my husband if we should order take out for dinner. He said, no, because his parents would find this rude and unwelcoming. He suggested that I go inside the kitchen and prepare something. Anything long as it's homemade. I said fine, then went and made some mac and cheese. The reason I prepared this meal is because of how easy it is. Once I served the family, my husband's mom looked at me and was appalled. I noticed something was wrong. She asked if I really found it appropriate to serve her and the family mac and cheese. I asked why not, and she went on a rant about how disrespectful this was and that I clearly have no experience in what is right and wrong when it comes to hosting. I said, excuse me? Who said I signed up to host an expected visit from them? And she took it as in I didn't want them there. Her husband said they were just there to finally see the baby that I kept them from seeing for an entire month. That's a whole month of his life they missed out on. We had an argument and they decided to go home. My husband said that deciding to serve his family mac and cheese was more offensive than serving them nothing at all. I told him I was too exhausted to cook their traditional feasts that I was forced to learn from his mom. He took offense and said that I was being mean and disrespectful towards not only his family but his culture. I went inside the bedroom to stay with my son. My husband stayed on the phone with his family for an hour, then kept giving me the cold shoulder and refused to eat what I cook in support of his family. I understand how some guests might find it offensive, especially his family. But I was just trying to make a quick homemade meal like my husband wanted. What's wrong with mac and cheese? Edit okay. So I'm seeing commenters here offering to come over for some mac and cheese. It's amazing to hear that some people here would appreciate this kind of meal. It kinda makes me feel relieved and reassures me that I didn't mess this up entirely. Come on in, y'all. I'll be more than happy to serve you some mac and cheese. Some of y'all even offered to bring mashed potatoes and pizza. Lol, would love to have y'all over sometime. NTA. I am firmly of the opinion that if someone is coming to visit a newborn, they bring the food to ensure they're not a burden to the new parents. If your husband wanted them specific food, he is perfectly capable of getting off his ass and cooking it himself. NTA. Tell them it's customary for them to bring you food. That's the unspoken tradition. Someone has a baby or someone dies. You bring the family food. Or order them food. Or give them gift cards for food. The last thing you should be worried about is cooking dinner. NTA. Why on earth would your husband not tell you? Also, does he need a map to the kitchen? Also, traditionally family bring food to the new mom, not the other way around. NTA. Another post where husband is the problem. And trust me, he is the problem in this story. Here's a list. 1. You're 4 weeks postpartum. So you're still recovering from the baby. 2. He invited his family without asking. 3. He expected you to cook an elaborate meal with no warning. 4. The mac and cheese was more than his entitled ass family deserved. I would have told them to get out and went to bed. And made sure dear husband went with him. since he didn't want to eat what you made in support of his entitled family. His family clearly means more to him than his postpartum wife and newborn. This isn't a culture clash. These people are just Oz. There isn't an Asian culture I'm aware of that doesn't practice some form of postpartum confinement, where it is expected that the new mother do nothing other than rest and bond with the baby. If they were so traditional, they should have showed up with food, offered to clean the house, and run a load of laundry while they're at it. NTABTW. Edited to add. Thanks for the awards, y'all. I'm Asian too. And even though I live far from home now, I totally enjoyed being able to just rest up and bond with my babies in the early days postpartum. Your husband made you make dinner for your in-laws visiting 4 weeks after you had a baby? NTA and his punk ass should have been making dinner. Wow. Why didn't they bring food? NTA. IDK. What kind of Asian your hubby is, but in Chinese culture moms are waited on hand and foot month 1. It's like a new mommy spa. Then coming over and him expecting you to make them dinner after literally pushing a child out of your body less than a month ago is stupid and selfish. Why couldn't he make dinner? Why couldn't he order in? Why doesn't he understand that making you cook 4 weeks post-trauma was a bad look? Much worse than not making his family a homemade meal. Show this thread to Hubs and make sure he understands he is stupid. Having people over is tough. Having people over and acting as host is not acceptable. NTA. If he wants to invite them, especially without consulting you, he needs to do the work that comes with it. NTA. And your husband's behavior is a giant red flag flapping in the wind. Individual therapy for yourself now, and possibly marriage counseling if the therapist thinks your husband will actually be willing to move past this. He's putting your in-laws before the mental well-being of his postpartum wife, and that's a huge problem. NTA. This is wild. 4 weeks after giving birth? If they're going to be there at all, it should be with armloads of groceries and carry out in offers to clean the house and do laundry. NTA. Girl, come on. The issue here is your husband. He has no right to talk to you the way he did ever. Least of all after you have just given birth to his child. You have a very long and hard road ahead of you. I strongly advise you to keep some money separate for when you need to leave. It's very common for abusive men to really show themselves after they think they have their victim trapped. This is exactly where you both are. It will be very hard for you to leave, and he's showing his true colors. Please keep up your relationship with your own friends and family. You are going to need them. And when you do leave, you will look back on this moment and wish you'd left now. It's only going to get worse. Good luck. NTA. They should have came bearing gifts and food. Loudly crying, this is crazy. Your mother-in-law needs to review her Emily post. You bring dinner to the household that has just welcomed a newborn. You don't demand that they cook for you. And also, the person who did the inviting is the host. Why didn't your husband cook an acceptable feast? And also, your husband is a massive A. Because how very dare he? How very dare he invite his parents without telling you? Make no arrangements to feed them. Tell you, the person who just gave birth a month ago, to prepare anything as long as it's homemade. WTF? Are his arms broken? Can he not locate the fridge? If it was so important, why didn't he tell you they were coming? And arrange for a meal himself? Or respect your very reasonable desire not to have them over, since clearly they do not understand how to welcome a new baby and support a new parent. And then have the effing nerve to tell you the homemade meal you prepared for his parents, whom he invited against your wishes and without notice, wasn't good enough? NTA. To the billionth power. NTA, but your husband and your in-laws very much are Oz. Why didn't your husband cook or at the very least discuss with you what he would consider an acceptable meal? 100% agreed with the commenter that said he should be on your team. Perhaps the most abhorrent part of his behavior is then not standing up for you. I think anyone coming to visit a new baby should expect to cook a meal. To be honest, I do get that there are cultural differences to take into account, but there was no reason for your husband not to take the lead and then support you. This is very concerning. I'm so sorry. It's so much bigger than mac and cheese. NTA. If he wants to invite his family over without telling you and then demand a homemade meal 1 month after you've birthed a human being, he can go into the kitchen and make it himself. He is the A. He invited them over. He should have cooked something or ordered out. NTA. Why didn't he cook if it had to be some fancy meal? NTA. But your husband is. If he wants his family to eat a 3-course meal, he can cook it himself or order out. And the fact that he didn't give you any prior notice that he was calling his family for dinner is very, very disrespectful and inconsiderate towards you. NTA. Why didn't your husband prepare the food if it's so important to him? It was disrespectful of him to give you no heads up whatsoever that his parents are coming over. I would have been so mad. And does the whole family, including your husband, not grasp how exhausting giving birth and the time after is?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.